So let's continue. Sorry for that. So a memo is intended to inform a group of people about a specific issue, such as an event, such as a policy, even a resource, and to encourage them to take an action. So when you talk about a memo or a memorandum simply means something to be kept in mind or something to be remembered. For example, if I want to communicate to people in my department that there will be a meeting next week on Friday, what I do, I will write a memo. Tell them that next week we are going to have a meeting, and the meeting will be, this will be the agenda of the meeting. Also specify the time, also specify the reason why I'm calling for the meeting. I will also specify the venue. I will also specify the agenda of the meeting. Therefore, how do we write a memo? Because after we go through this, I'm going to show you a sample of a memo. How do we write this document called a memo? I can assure you that in your exam, you will encounter a section where you'll be required to write a document or to write something. You may be told to write a report. You may be told to write a memo. You may also be told to write a cover letter. You may also be told to write a CV. You may also be told to write what we call an email. You may also be told to write an apology letter. You may also be told to write a letter to request for your transcripts. You may also be told to write an offer letter or even a cover letter. Those are things that you may be told in your exam to do. I can guarantee you 100% there will be something that you will be writing in your exam. I won't tell you which one, but what you need to do is supposed to take things seriously and take everything seriously that you're being taught. Not only understanding them for the purposes of the exam, but these things will help you in future. For example, you may be in an organization as the head of department, and you are required to write a memo. And maybe when you're in class, you thought that this one was to pass the exam. My friend, you'll have to go back to your readings, have to go back to your books, check what you are taught. Therefore, having said that, I think let's look at how to write a memo. So number one, write the headline segment. Headline is very important. The headline segment is specify who the memo is for, because memo, they are not for everybody. If you work in an organization, organizations usually have departments, usually have sections. And all these sections and departments, they are headed by various managers, various heads of departments. Therefore, when you write a memo, the memo may be specifically for your department. It may be specifically for your department, but for a certain group of people within your department. So you need to specify who the memo is for and who sent the memo. It's good to specify that the memo came from so and so. And the subject matter. What is the subject matter? The subject matter is late payment. Give me a minute. Now, when you talk about the memo, let me share my screen again. We are saying that you need to specify who the memo is for. The subject matter, maybe the subject matter is late payment of salaries. Maybe you want to tell the employees why there has been late payment of salaries. Or maybe you want to tell the employees that there will be a meeting to explain why there has been late payment of salaries. So you need to have a subject matter. That is what the memo is all about. You need to have a sample heading. Okay, in other words, we are saying a sample heading would look like this. For example, memo needs to have two. Two is where is it going to? Who are the recipients of the memo? For example, if I'm the head of department or I am the manager, I want to talk to the head of department, and I will write memo to head of department. I will not say to all the department members, because the memo is specifically for the head of department. So if I'm a manager, I will write to head of department. Where is it coming from? It is coming from a manager. Maybe, for example, marketing manager, communications manager. It is also important to indicate the date. The date that you're indicating on the memo is the date that the memo was written. If the memo was written yesterday and you are sending it today, then the memo should have the date of yesterday, not today. Unless you are writing you have written the memo, you have sent it today. That one is okay. If the memo was written last week, maybe on Friday, then the date that should be read on the memo, should read on the memo, is the date when the memo was written. So you need to do what? Write the date. You also need to write what the memo is all about. That is the subject. Subject can be delay of salaries. Now you need to consider who the audience of the memo are. At that point, maybe I can show what we call an example of a memo. Allow me to share my screen, share an example of a memo, that we can have a glimpse of what I'm talking about. Now, this is an example of a memo. It's an example of a memo. And all those things that we have said about a memo, you can see them here. So this is a sample. And the sample of a memo comes from Tech University. It is coming from who? From the registrar academics. It is going to who? To all the students. This date that you see here, 1603/2020, is when the memo was written. And then subject. Subject is suspension of face-to-face classes due to COVID-19. Then when you are going through the memo, explain what you need to explain in that particular letter. Then also need to do what? Sign off, to sign out, to sign off the letter. If you are the registrar, you put your signature there and you sign off the letter. Those are the only good things about the memo. So if I look at your memo, suppose it is an exam, look at have you indicated that where the memo is coming from? Have you indicated where it is going to? Have you indicated the date? Have you indicated the reference? Reference is not a must, but if you feel you want to indicate, you can. Have you indicated the subject of the memo? And have you signed off the memo? And what have you said in your memo? Suppose the memo is all about delay of salaries. What have you said in the memo? Have you addressed that issue? Have you communicated effectively to your recipients? So that's how a memo looks like. Then we can go back to what I was sharing before. And we can say this, that consider number one, writing the headline of the segment, that was number one. Number two, you need to consider who the audience should be. So in order to get people to read and respond to a memo, it is important to tailor the tone. Remember, there was a time we were looking at verbal communication, and we talked about the tone that you use in a memo. For example, you use the word must, and you use the word shall, you use the words like threatening language, like, for example, will be fired. That is a tone that you are using. You are threatening the employee that whoever will not adhere to maybe whatever you have indicated in your memo, severe action will be taken. That is the tone, because the tone tells us everything. Like, for example, you may hear some people in an organization saying, have you seen the memo? That is a very serious memo. Tuko taabani. We are doomed. That memo, somebody will be fired in this particular company, or a severe action will be taken if that behavior persists. So people can be able to read the memo and know what the memo is all about. So you need to tailor your tone. You need also to look at the length. Don't write a very long memo, 3 pages. Memos are usually not very long. Memos are usually very short, brief, and to the point. You don't write a memo of 7 pages, 10 pages, 20 pages. That is not a memo, that is a book that you are writing. And the level of formality, the memo to the audience who will be reading it, level of formality, kind of language that you are using. Does it show professionalism? Does it show some kind of hooliganism? It is good that you use the best language ever to tailor your message, your tone of the message. It should be considerate. Don't talk to employees as though they are just Tom, Dick, and Harry's. They're outside there. So doing this effectively requires that you have a good idea who the memo is intended for. It's good to know. If you are writing memos to the head of department, then you can tailor your tone fit into the head of department. If you are writing a memo to the students, then you should tailor your language to the student level. If you are writing a memo to the employees or the employees, there is a language that you use when you are writing your memo, the employee. So it's good that you think about your audience's priorities again, and concerns. Try to imagine why the information you are presenting would be important to them. Try to anticipate any question. For example, employees may ask you when will be the meeting. That is, you anticipate that question, you answer it in the memo. Employees may also ask, why are we going to the meeting? You should tailor your tone, why the employees, the people you are writing memos for, should come to the meeting. Tell them the importance of coming to the meeting. Because the memo is to tell the people, this is what now you should be doing. For example, it might be a memo can be, for example, telling the employees or warning the employees to be wearing what we call formal clothing from Monday to Friday, not casual clothing. Then you should write a memo telling them the seriousness of wearing, putting on formal clothing rather than casual. It's good so that the employee knows the seriousness of the issue. So consider the audience. So Also, considering the audience also, it allows you to be sensitive to including any information or sentiments that are inappropriate for your readers. This is very true. Sometimes you find employers who are not considerate, because these are employees. They just write a memo that looks like it's abusive. Even if you are very angry about something, even if you are not happy about something, as an employer, you should write a memo. Of course, let me tell you something. In an organization, people are different. People are different. For example, you can give some work to some people in the department. Like I can give you something to do. I tell you the deadline for submitting that report for every member is Monday morning at 8. So some will do what? Some of them will bring the memo even before 8, before 8 a.m. on Monday. Some of them we may even give you the report on Saturday. Some may even give you on Friday. Others will give you that very day, on Monday morning. Others will give you hours later from 8 a.m. maybe, for example. Ours will take 2 or 3 days before delivering the report to you. How do you deal with them? Do you write a memo abusing them, telling them or showing them that you are very angry about that and threatening them? No, you don't do that. Consider the audience. Also, considering the audience, it also helps you or allows you to be sensitive to including any information or sentiment. There are people who are not sensitive. They will say anything in a memo and send it like that, show the employees how angry they are. Then number 3, you are being told, introduce the problem or issue to your readers in an opening segment. Maybe the issue is about dress code. It has come to your attention that employees nowadays, they are not adhering to formal dress code. They come even with sport shoes to work. Some even wear doll shoes, work. Some of them even wear what we call tumbo cuts. It has come to your attention, and you need to write a memo to all the employees, telling them or showing them the reason why they should stick to formal wearing of clothes. Introduce the problem or issue to your readers in the opening segment. Number 4, suggest ways to address the issues in the summary segment. Suggesting ways is telling people how they should put on their clothes. Sometimes memos are even written to tell you that there will be a meeting. Sometimes a memo is written to communicate people to stop doing some things, even to communicate the changes that have taken place in an organization. So memos are not specifically sent to tell you that there will be a meeting. It can also be written to warn you. It can also be written to inform you that salaries will be delayed this week because the accountant has been fired. The accountant, we don't have an accountant. Something like that, or our systems are being worked on. So you can write a memo to inform your employees that our salaries this month are going to be delayed. Also, you need to explain to them if they are going to be delayed, when are they expecting their salaries? Maybe they usually get their salaries on date 1. And tell them that the salaries will be available by date 3 or by date 4 the month. So you are anticipating the questions they will ask. Why are you telling us that our salaries will be delayed? Tell them because there will be system maintenance. When are we expecting our salary then? Tell them you should be expecting your salary this particular date. Then another question might be, is this problem likely to recur again? Explain. You are doing all your best and now to ensure that that problem will not recur again. Those are the kind of questions the employees will be asking themselves. So those questions, you should anticipate them and answer them in that particular memo. So support your course of action, a discussion segment. Support yourself. Why are you delaying our salary? And please, can't this system maintenance be done after you pay our salaries? Why are you doing it right now that you are not able to do it? Now it has affected even our payment date, our payday. Review and edit your memo and make sure it is clear, concise, persuasive, and free from errors. Before you send your memo, make sure you review it. Sometimes I look at people when they write messages on WhatsApp. You wonder whether this person was serious. Write a message that has got so many grammatical errors. Wonder, was this person reading what he was writing? Was she reading what she was writing? So if you do this, maybe you are the MD or you are the CEO of an organization, you write a memo, you print it, and you send to people's emails. And when people read, they find that it is full of grammatical errors. How will they think about you? You think that you are very careless with words and you don't care. Actually, you are very careless and you are very unprofessional in your work. So it is good that when you write a memo, look at it word per word. Look at where you have put a full stop. Is it required? Or where you have put a full stop, are you supposed to put a comma? Look at where you have put a capital letter. Is it supposed to be there? Look at the format of the memo. Is it pleasing? Those are some of the things that you check. Because if you don't check them, you may become the laughing stock of the management or organization. They'll be full of grammatical errors. Where you're supposed to put the subject, you have put the date. Where you're supposed to put the date, you have put the subject. Where you are supposed to sign off, that is where you are putting don't know what, so on and so forth. So that marks the end of the memo. I think I've shown you the memo. And sometimes you can write a memo, tell the people, come for a meeting. For example, you may write a memo, your head of department, to all the employees, tell them that, and the subject is general annual meeting. So you are calling them for the meeting, annual general meeting, and then you write the agenda. Agenda number 1 will be discuss about. Agenda number 1 is prayers. Agenda number 2 is, say, for example, it's apologies. People need to, of course, when you call for a meeting, those who will give an apology. Akukosangi. You will never have 2 or 3 people will tell you I will not make it to that particular meeting. Agenda number 1, maybe you can put what we call preliminaries. You can call it prayers. Agenda number 2 can be apologies. Agenda number 3 can be, what we call statements from or communication from the chair. Agenda number 4 can be, for example, the 4K club, the agricultural club. Agenda number 4, like that. You have to put your agenda. So you can put all your agendas in the memo. In other words, you have told the employees that there will be a general meeting, annual general meeting, and the main aim of the annual general meeting, agendas, you list them down. And then tell us if you have CC'd somebody, the email, maybe you CC'd the head of department, or maybe you CC'd somebody like communications officer. You need to tell us that this memo has also been copied. The communications officer of the organization. It has also been copied the Minister of Education or a Minister of Agriculture. You need to tell us that. And you also, in your memo, you need to tell us the time and the venue when we are supposed to come for that particular annual general meeting. So then, once you send that memo, people will come for the meeting. When they come for the meeting, because there are those who will come, those who will give apologies, there are those who will not give apologies. Then, during that particular time of the meeting, there is also what we call a secretary of the department or the organization. And we have what we call minutes. Secretary of the organization or the department will record what is happening in the meeting. Now, the recordings of the meeting is what we call minutes. Minute taking. Minute taking is recording of the meeting. So minutes are also known as what we call protocols, which are minutes or informally notes. They are instantly written records. As the meeting is taking place, the secretary is here recording them. They typically describe the event of the meeting. Describe the event of the meeting. Describe, for example, if Mr. David said this and that, secretary writes, Mr. David has given this point. If Mr. Tony has given a certain point, the secretary writes, Mr. Tony said this, concerning the same. And he records everything that is happening, all the discussions that are happening in the meeting. At this particular time, the secretary is recording short notes. Short notes. He's not writing everything, he's writing in shorthand, very fast, so that when he's done, when the meeting is over, the secretary goes down immediately and writes minutes in its right format. So they typically describe the event of the meeting, starting with a list of attendees, a statement of the issues considered by the participant, and related responses or decisions for the issues. Decisions were made in the meeting. Secretary writes down. Minutes may also be created during a meeting with a typist. You find that a typist usually writes minutes. Like if you visit many courts, many courtrooms, you find that there is that person typing what is happening. That person is called a typist, who may use shorthand notation and then prepare the minutes and issue them to the participant afterwards. Once the typist has typed the minutes, once the secretary has written the minutes, he will go, because she had written in shorthand, whatever she had written, so it looks like rough work, she will go and sit down and write them properly immediately after the meeting. Because if she takes like days or 3 days, he may even forget what happened in the meeting. So it is advisable when you are the secretary and you are working and you are the secretary of the meeting, it's advisable that when you write the minutes, because you are not writing in full, you're writing in shorthand, it is advisable when the meeting is over, go sit down and write your minute immediately. Because if you take 2 or 3 days, we'll forget what other events that happen. So once the secretary goes and sits down and writes the minutes, he distributes them to the members who are in the meeting. Those who are present, those who are absent with apology, he distributes them or she distributes them. It can be physically, it can be through the email, it can be through whatever method that is advisable in an organization or it's available in the organization. Now, for private organization, it is usually important for the minutes to be tasked. Only include a summary, the discussions, and what we call decisions. The minutes of certain groups, such as a corporate board of director, must be kept on a file. Once the secretary writes the minutes, he's supposed to keep a copy of the minutes in a file. Some people may come and say, meeting did not take place. What do you do? Minutes are very important and they are very good. They're also very important. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Where I used to live, there is this particular school, high school, that the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the NMS, they went there and dug a borehole. When they dug a borehole, the school got some water. They made sure that everything is okay. They had a tank and everything. After that, it happened that after using the water, because the water was free for the community, people started getting the water from the school, of course, piped water from the school, because it was free for the community. Because the NMS had said, you will use this water for free unless we will get to a point whereby everyone will be required to pay for the water. So what happened is that the community was very happy. Everybody looked for a way in which they can channel the water to their homes, and they did. Now, one particular day or one specific day, the pump, the pump that pumps water from the borehole to the tank, it blew out due to a power breakout, a power surge. Yeah? We call it power surge. It blew out completely, and it would not function. It could not function. And now, because this is water from the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, so the community came together. Some members of the community, they said, we are supposed to contribute money so that we can do what? We can buy another water pump, or better still, we do what we call repair the water pump. But people are reluctant. They said we cannot contribute. So those who contributed, because it was costing around 600,000, the water pump was costing 600,000. So those who contributed, the members, they contributed, and those who were not able to contribute, it was still okay. So the money that was contributed, they went with it NMS, and they told NMS, our water pump spoiled due to power break, and or power breakout, something like that, power surge. Therefore, we need to buy that particular water pump, and we have agreed with the community that we are going to contribute each individual this amount of money. So NMS told them, you have minutes that shows that members agreed to contribute such money. You have minutes, because whatever is for government should be worked by the government. It's the government that did all that work, and therefore you should not even think about it. So the person asked, where are the minutes to show that everybody agreed to contribute that amount of money? The person was not able to give the minutes. In other words, it's good to have minutes, because minutes are a record of a meeting that took place. So it took a very long time, Nairobi Metropolitan Services come and repair that particular or that particular water pump. And those who had contributed the money, the Nairobi Metropolitan said, told that particular guy who was representing the community, can you go and return people's money? Because there was no agreement, there was no meeting, show that agreed to contribute whatever you contributed. So meetings are very important. Even in government, if you want money for the youth fund, Maybe you have a business idea, and you have come together as a group, and you want the government to fund your project. First thing that they require from you is minutes to show that all of you sat down and agreed to do that particular business, and the signatures of everyone, their telephone numbers. So the first thing they will ask you, where are the minutes? Show that all of you participated in that particular decision that you made. It is important to have minutes. Let me tell you one thing, that you may think that this is just for fun, for you passing the exam. You might be surprised by your boss once you get employed. Do this, write for us minutes, the meeting. Many are times when I visit some meeting, find that who will write for us minutes? Then you hear, Mr. David, can you write for us minutes? And you cannot say you will not. A whole you, for 18 years, you don't know how to write minutes. You cannot say, I will not write. So you just write the minutes. So in other words, it is good that you pay attention to this, because it will help you in future. In future, you might be told to write minutes for your for the meeting that has been arranged by the director, the CEO. And you will have to write. You will not say, I am not the secretary of the company. I don't know how to write minutes. Those are lame excuses, and that is how it is. For private organization, it is usually important for the minutes to be terse and only include summary of discussions and decisions. The minutes of certain groups, such as a corporate board, directors, must be kept on a file and are important legal documents. That's why it is good in a meeting that you go, put those minutes in a file. Will be needed one day. Somebody can come claiming there was never a meeting. What will you do? You'll have to go to the file, show the document. This is the meeting that took place. These are the minutes of the meeting that took place. Publicly held companies are generally required to keep minutes of the proceedings of number one, general meetings, meetings of board of directors, meetings of committee, the board of directors. Minutes become official written record for an organization required. All public meetings and government hearings are official records. Meetings are records, show that a meeting took place. Also, minutes usually follow an adopted set of rules. We are going to look at how minutes are written, then we can look at something else. So let me stop sharing my screen and click on a sample of minutes. This is how minutes look like. I hope you can see that sample, wherever you are. This is how minutes look like. For example, when you write minutes of the meeting, you need to write that. The headline should contain all the details that are required, the venue, the meeting, why the meeting is being held. For example, you can see minutes of the meeting of the Young Farmers Club held in the agriculture room, 13th January 2020 at 2 p.m. Number one gives you what the document is all about. It tells you that these are minutes. It tells you the purpose of the meeting. It tells you the meeting was for who, Young Farmers Club. It tells you where the room where the meeting was held. It also tells you the date where the meeting was held, the year, and also the time. It tells you 7 things. So if you are going to have a question on minutes writing, your title should have 7 things in it. It should have topic minutes so that we know that this is a document of a meeting. It should have people who have been invited for the meeting, for example, minutes of the meeting of the Young Farmers Club, that the people that have been invited. It must show the room where the meeting took place. It must show the date. It must show the year. It must show the time. Once you have your title like that, it guarantees you of around 5 marks. Hata hujaanza kuandika, you've not even started writing. So, in a minute, of course, we have looked at what is it, the title. In minute writing, you need to write the members present. Who are the members present? Write them down. Write them down even if there are 1,000 members, and if there are 10,000, you have to write them down. Members present in a meeting. Next group of people that you put is members absent with apology. Of course, this one they are absent, they had an apology. List them down, even if they are 100, list them down. Then members absent without apology. Of course, there are people they don't give apology, even in this class. People who did not come to class, they did not inform anybody. So members absent without apology. If there are 100, list them down. Also, we have what we call in attendance. Attendance are people that have been invited for that particular meeting. They are not the members of the club. They have been invited. Attendance people like, you can have agricultural officer, you can have the chief, you can have the governor, senator of Nairobi County. Those are in attendance. You list them down. Then from there, you have to write all your agenda. Remember, maybe for example, you had sent a memo for inform the people there will be a meeting, the Young Farmers Club, and the agendas will be like this. So you need to write the agendas down, starting with preliminaries, reading of the reading and confirmation of the previous minutes. So now I will explain. Reading and confirmation of the previous minutes, matters arising from the previous minutes. So and also I will explain. Agricultural visit, these are agendas, Nairobi show, any other business, and adjournment. Now, those things that I've highlighted in, is it blue color? Reading and confirmation of the previous minute. The matters arising from the previous minute. Now, sometimes you find a group of people like the Young Farmers Club, they had met before. They had met before. When they met before, they had different agendas. Now, when you, let's say, for example, you met last year, or you have met this year. Of course, when you met last year, you had written minutes, you had what we call minutes. Minutes were written. Those minutes are on the file. Now, because you had met previously, then when you come back to the meeting, you have another meeting, let's say, for example, this year, then there has to be reading and confirmation of the previous minutes. So in other words, the chairman has read the previous minutes. But when we met, this is what we said. So now we have met a second time. The chairman reads everything in the minutes. Once he reads everything that is in the minutes, of course, the previous minutes, there will be somebody seconding it as true record. And there is somebody doing what we call proposing and seconding. These are the members present now in the present meeting. Lazima kukuwe na mwenye na propose, mwenye na second. Once they are proposed and seconded as true records, then records are signed by the chairman and the secretary signs those records. Now they go to the file officially. It means that everybody has agreed that is what we discussed the last meeting that we met. So this is our second meeting. And before you even start, we need to read the previous minutes. We hear what people said. We see whether minutes were written properly and everything was captured as we discussed. Once that is done, then there is a seconder and there is a person proposing. Once they have been proposed as true records, then the chairman will sign and the secretary signs the document. Now it goes and it is put in a file. Then matters arising from the previous minutes. What were the matters arising from the previous minutes? Were they discussed? So on and so forth. But if this is your first meeting, and you don't include those two. Because what are we reading? And this is our first meeting. When we meet next year, then there will be reading of the confirmation of the previous meeting, and there will be also looking at matters arising from the previous minutes. So then, when you write your minutes, you need to write them properly. Like, for example, min 1/1, this one, talks about preliminaries. Min 1/1, preliminaries. Preliminaries is simply telling us how the meeting started. Maybe the meeting started with chairman congratulating people, or telling the chairman chairman of the meeting telling them that, or congratulating them for the father they have made, or telling them to welcome back for the long Christmas holiday. And then the meeting, how was it started? It was started with a word of prayer from Brenda Momanyi. So if you look at Brenda Momanyi here, my friend, when you're writing the minutes, not be tempted to write Brenda Momanyi here, and he was a member absent with apology. Brenda Momanyi must be a member present without apology. Of course, when you're present, you're present without apology. So we can see Brenda Momanyi there. So whenever you're including someone here, make sure that that someone was not absent with apology or even absent. So those are preliminaries. Then we go to minute 2/20. 20 may mean it can be min 1/20 here. It was the year 2020. So you can even include 2020. Maybe the memo was written in the year 2020. So we go to the next the next agenda. The next agenda is matters arising. Reading of the previous minutes. So you need to tell us. The minutes of the previous meeting were read through and proposed by Okech. Okech Opio must be a person who was present. So if we come here, the present members, you can see Okech Opio. He proposed the minutes, and then Jane Wayaki seconded the minutes. Jane Wayaki should be a member present also. Is she there? Yes, it's there. You can see he was present. Put Jane Wayaki, the one who proposed the minutes. Hiyo siku hata hakukuja meeting. What is he seconding? Because when you're seconding, you're actually trying to tell us that those are true records. That is what we discussed when we were here, when we met. So after that is another agenda, agricultural show visits. That one goes to min 3. Matters arising goes to min 3/20. We go to min 3/20, matters arising. Like that. So you explain what was arising. For example, the matters that arose in our private meeting or during our previous meeting is that member felt that we can form a circle or we can have a merry-go-round. Matters arising are things that are not in the agenda. People felt that we can talk about this. Then like that. So you all have to include all these agendas. They have to appear on your memo. Apart from there, let me look at something lastly. Something lastly that I'm going to look at is what we call any other business and adjournment. Now, any other business is any other thing apart from what we came for the meeting. You thought that we can be having annual general party. Instead of going for Christmas, it's good to have a celebration. Good to have parties, party after party. So you can write that. Those are matters arising. They are not in relation to the agendas that were put forward. Min 20, 7/20, last thing need to tell us the adjournment. Need to tell us that there being no other business, the meeting ended at 2 p.m. The word of prayer, of course, from a member who was present, a word of prayer from who? Or maybe Sifuna Njoroge or Lilian Chalo. Let's see who gave the word of prayer. Of course, it is Lilian Chalo. So then you can tell us the next meeting will be held in March or will be held in March next year at 10 a.m. Now, when we come in March 20th, these minutes will be previous minutes. Will be previous minutes. And therefore, the chairperson will read the minutes and we write the date. When the minutes were read, we'll put a signature. Same case will happen to the secretary. After the minutes have been read, they have been accepted as the true records that happened in the previous meeting. Then the secretary, her name, date, and we'll put the signature. Now this document will go into the file. Simple as that. Any question? Any question? Or do we say any other business? So let's continue here. What is involved in minutes writing, in writing minutes? Number one is pre-planning. Planning simply means that at the very least, it is important to get a copy of the meeting agenda. The secretary, it's very important, get a copy of the meeting agenda. The person who called for a meeting used a memo. Good to have that memo because that memo have the agenda, the meeting. So pre-planning is getting the meeting's agenda and use it as a guide or outline for taking notes. The secretary, you use those agendas as a guidance to taking notes, preparing the minutes with the order and numbering of items as they appear on the agenda. Sometimes a person calling for a meeting may give a memo, the agendas included. So if the agendas are not included, you can go to the person who has called for the meeting and tell her or him, give you agenda. What are the agendas of the meeting? So that you as a secretary, when you are writing down, you know that from this, we will move to the next item that is in the agenda, that is in the agenda. Number 2 is record taking. Once you have the agenda, it's good to do record taking. Before you start taking notes, it is important to understand the type of information you need to record at the meeting. As noted earlier, organization may have required content, specific format. You need to know. There are some organizations that have got a specific format. You just don't write minutes and send them. To tell you, you are writing minutes, make sure that it is within this format. This is the format of this organization. Then you're being told what? That meeting minutes usually include the following. Number 1, they have the date. This one we have looked at on the title, and time of the meeting. That one we have looked at it. It has the name of the meeting and participant, those unable to attend, or apologies. It has acceptance or correction, amendment, previous minutes, 18 minutes. That is why we have reading the previous meeting. When we read the previous meeting, somebody may raise their hands and say, hatukusema hivyo. We did not say that. We said people should be contributing 200 shillings a month. Maybe you had written a day. Somebody can correct. So it is important to read the minutes of the previous meeting so that people can tell whether you have recorded everything as you agreed in the previous meeting. Somebody might have said, you may have written people should contribute 200 per day. Somebody may raise his hand and say, we did not say 200 per day, we said 200 shillings a year or per month. So then we are also saying that meeting minutes usually include the following. Number 1, decisions made about each agenda or item. You need to tell us, what did the members say? Example, about contributing money for an exhibition at ASK show. Did the members say? What were the actions that were taken or agreed upon? Huh? There was voting. Who are the majority? Maybe you are voting, should we contribute 300 or 500? Some people said 500, some people said 200, and the majority said 200. You need to write that in the minutes. Huh? If you had a motion that you are discussing, debate, how did it go? So on and so forth. So the minutes writing process, once the meeting is over, it is time to pull together all the notes, write them. The secretary will go down and try to write the minutes as soon as the meeting is over, because everything is fresh in her mind, in his mind. So if she doesn't write them immediately, then she will forget ni nani alituombea, members ambao walikuwa present walikuwa nani, Kamau aliposimama kuongea, what did he say? You will find yourself in a very confused situation. So it's good that once the meeting is over, and write the minutes immediately. View your outline, and if necessary, add additional notes to clarify points. Make sufficient details. After doing that, after writing process, after writing the minutes, you distribute or share the minutes. Distribute them. Sometimes you can distribute them physically, every member that was present and those that were absent. Sometimes you can send the minutes via their email. That is what we call online sharing. So having said that, then after distributing them, you file the minutes. You must have your copy. Put it in a file. Because that time tutakuwa tunaenda the next meeting, you'll be required to read the minutes of the previous meeting. So that is the one that you will pull from your file and read it. And if everybody agrees that was the true record that we said, in the previous meeting, then you sign, the secretary and the chairman signs, and then you go and put that particular minute, those minutes in your file as a record. So having said that, I've come to the end of today's lesson. So you have seen, we have looked at two documents, minute writing and memo. Any question on how to write, any question or any clarification on the two documents? Any question? You still have assignment 1. Assignment expires, I think I added you some days.